When you speak, time begins. When you speak, darkness ends. When you speak, you calm the noise. There is power in your voice, and every single word that you say of me makes the old brand new. Is your
More pages. You about ready? Welcome back to the wilderness, everybody. Tonight, I have a good friend of mine who's going to share her story, Faith Everly. She's sitting right here next to me. We are in person at her place. It is our very last show of 2025. And what other best way to do it than to share probably one of the most powerful one of the powerful testimonies that I've heard in a very long time. We've known of each other for, I would say, a few years because of the women's encounter in passing. And somewhere along the lines, we've become really good friends. She's like a sister to me, and her husband's like, a brother, and we do a lot of life together. And within that, I got to hear bits and pieces of it, and I felt that it was time that, and God did as well. We both prayed over it, but God felt it was time that y'all got to hear her testimony. So this is Faith Everly. How are you?
Good.
Okay. So Faith, tell me, how's the family doing?
They're doing great.
Great.
Yeah.
Husband's great. Son's great.
Husband's great.
Okay.
Our son just turned 14 years old.
2 days ago, wasn't it? Yesterday or something?
December the 21st. So
Wow. Well,
yeah.
more than 2 days ago.
Full-blown teenager. We thought the 13 was teenager, but 14's
Oh, wow.
quite different.
Think we'll give it another 4 years. You'll have another testimony to tell, right?
Probably so.
Survives being the teenager years.
Yep.
So tell us let's begin with what life was like before Christ.
Okay. So, as a young child, I always thought that I was a Christian. I following Christ. I went to church with my family. I got, prophesied over as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old at was basically like a, just this huge ministry thing where I got slayed in the spirit and they prophesied over me. And so I thought that was what being Christian was. And then actually beginning my walk with Christ, it was
Wow. Okay.
so all this time of being a Christian, asking the Lord into my heart, praying when it felt good, right? Praying when I felt like I needed him, it drastically changed. My relationship with the Lord changed in such a huge way that I became the Christian that I thought that I was, right?
Okay.
So, probably what led me to that point was getting sober. And it wasn't even like a rock bottom overdose or bad night of being drunk or whatever. It wasn't like that. My story wasn't like that.
Mhm.
For a long time, the Lord was trying to get my attention. He was trying to make me change my ways, right? He was, I had scares. I ended up in the hospital one night that thought that the weed that I had smoked was laced with something, and then, got a DUI and, got out of that and, was in the hospital another night with, 3.5 times over the legal limit of alcohol. So he was trying to make me change my ways. But basically becoming sober was what really led me to, I want to say, like the lowest for me,
Mhm.
because I had taken that alcohol and those drugs and all of the other things. I mean, even sex, right? Covered all of my emotions and things, and never truly had none of that. And so whenever I didn't have any of it, I felt a lot of things that I never. And it was me looking in the mirror and saying, God, if you are who you say you are, then you're going to have to change something, because I was ready to admit it all. And he did. And it was like me saying, here it is. You have to take it from me. And that's where my journey like really began with them, because it went to women's encounter and then just this whole slew of transformation in so many ways.
Well, let's talk about that transformation, if you don't mind.
No, let's go.
What you're willing to share. What was the transformation like?
So hard at first, right? Because you're at your lowest. I was literally going to commit suicide and was like, God, here it is. If I've heard about you my whole life and the things that you do, and for other people, if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it now. And I went through therapy, and a lot of things were kind of brought to the surface of probably why I dealt with certain things, certain ways, and, from childhood or relationships or, just the choices that I've made. And then I went to a women's encounter. It was actually the first one that they had. And I've never been able to do something like that because my kids played sports and the days just didn't add up, and I didn't feel comfortable from being away from my family for that amount of time. I was just like, okay, like I'm willing to do whatever it is to keep myself healthy, keep myself sober, keep my, my faith going, just all the things. And at that time, we had gotten back into church. My husband was not really raised in church, but he attended things with like friends and stuff like that. I grew up in church, but like during my teenage years and young adulthood, that wasn't something that I did. I knew that whenever we had a kid together, that I wanted that for my kid. We got planted in a church after a few years of, going to different churches, and nothing felt like home. And for the first time, my husband was comfortable. You could see that, like, he was blossoming. And I mean, we got involved in a small group. We went through a freedom group, and the freedom group brought out a lot of basically inner healing. And if you don't know, like, what that even means, you don't even realize that it's happening, right?
Right.
And so that just opened up a lot. It was like the peeling of the onion of just the freedom group and me going to women's encounter. And when I went to women's encounter, I was dealing with breast implant illness. I had battled with breast implant illness for probably 7 years, and I had gone back and forth of, no, let me try this and see if it helps, or no, let me do this and see if it helps. And I went so far as to have my implants taken out in exchange for new ones. They're old. I just need new ones. They're going to heal me, right? So
time for a new model. Yeah. Okay.
And so I tried to do all of it. Well, when I did that, it actually made it worse. And so I went to a women's encounter, not knowing what it was. I had no idea what was going to happen there, but I actually got healed. I got healed because I had surrendered the way that I thought that I needed to look, right, to God. At that time, my son had been going through years of trauma, of like torment at night. And I was asking the Lord to, like, heal me, heal him. And he was like, how can I heal you whenever you're doing the very thing that's causing you to be sick? And so I said, fine, I'll take them out. And so we did. I had an explant surgery, and that next day, obviously after the anesthesia and being woken up, it was life-changing for me. Like, I was literally healed.
So he was like telling you, how can I cast these demons out when you like dancing with them? Right?
Yes. He was basically saying, you want me to heal you, but you ain't going to let it go.
Right.
And I battled with it, obviously. But I had also battled with, like, it was literally killing me from the inside out.
Yeah.
Through all of the things of trying to figure out what it was. And blood test after blood test and always testing, and nothing was happening. They couldn't figure it out, but I knew what it was.
So this whole time that you're going through this, right? You know, I've gone through some health issues here recently and in the past, and I know how sometimes it has rocked my faith, right? Where were you at there going through all this, battling the test, battling the surgery, everything that you're going through? Because I'm sure there is mental, spiritual, the whole works you were battling, right? Where were you at? How bad was your faith shaken, and how did you come out of that?
So before I went to Women's Encounter and basically had that encounter, I was scared. Was, like, I didn't want to believe that that's what it was. I didn't want to really accept that, I guess you could say. And then going to Women's Encounter, it was like revealed to me. Like I listened to those speakers, and the Lord was telling me, like, this way that you have seen yourself, I love you for who you are. Like, you need to love yourself for the way that I see you. And I wasn't. And when I left there, it was just a completely different me. I loved myself for who God had created me to be. And I was ready to let that go. Whenever I decided that I was ready to let it go, the Lord like ran with it. He changed more than just that for me. He changed a lot of things with just my faith. And I mean, that was basically the beginning, like me getting sober, and that surgery was like ridding me of the things that were faith.
So you dealt with a lot of, what would you call it? I'm bad at words, but
yeah. So I went through Deliverance. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I went through Deliverance, and literally the spirit of body dysmorphia was cut off of me.
Right. Because there's a lot of people that deal with that, especially women, with society, how society tells them they should look like, right?
And I mean, even at that, like, you look at people and, you think that they have it together, right? And then they're the ones that you don't even realize that they don't want to leave the house because they're worried about what somebody else might think that they're not thinking.
Right.
And like, whether they're, overweight, it's not even that, because I wasn't. I was small. I was, had a good figure, like all the things. And I was so insecure about everything.
So what would your advice be to individuals that are battling that?
I think that it's important to know that, like, you're made in the image of God. Like, He created you in that. Yeah. And you're the only Daniel. Right. And like, there's never going to be another Daniel. And what's important is that you walk in that. Like, you don't try to mirror somebody else, or, like act like them, or look like them, or look at a magazine, or look at TV shows and be like, that girl's pretty, I want her hair. Mm-hmm. Or I like the way she looks, I want to look like that. Because that's not who you are.
No, absolutely not. Hey, it's funny that you say that, because men go through it as well, right? Men go through it as well, where, and listeners, y'all know how transparent I am with y'all, but I've gone through it, right? Where I look at other men that girls think are the hottest thing ever, and I'm like, I want to have those abs. I want to be in shape like that. I wish I was taller. I wish I was this. And it wasn't until I said, you're made in my image. And I started walking in that. And that is true what you're saying. You have to accept that. First, realize what that is. And when you do, walk in it. There's so much power. Look, and people say, dang, you're so confident. Well, it's not me. I'm confident in the God in me.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Like, I used to not leave the house without, like, even if it was to go to Walmart, like, I would have, hold on, I can't go like that. Like, hold on, I can't do that. And there's been a lot of transformation in that, to where, like, I mean, the job that we're in now, like, at the beginning of us doing what we're doing, I was like, I can't go in the gas station looking like this. And my husband's like, you're working. And I'm like, I don't want them to know that I work like that. Like, look how I look. Right. And it's just like, I mean, even the small things like that, like I am working, you are right. And this is hard work. And this is how I look when I work. And it doesn't matter if anybody else thinks a certain way. Like the Lord has given me the opportunity and I need to walk in it.
Oh yeah. It's funny because even as a man, I thought that too, right? Because I work for myself, right? And I'm basically my own boss. And I sit there and I'm getting done with a job, and it's say in the summer, and I'm just sweaty. I have my tank top, tattoo showing, my hair's messed up, I'm all dirty, and I'm walking into a store, and people are looking at me like I'm just homeless or something, right? And it used to worry me so
Yeah.
much. Now it's like I go in and I'm like, you have no idea.
I thought like, and I was a judgy person too.
Mhm.
And so I would fabricate things in my head and think like other people were thinking other things about me. And 9 times out of 10, they weren't, right? But I was also the one like, dang, what has he been doing today?
Right.
Or, like, and you don't know.
You
And
don't know. And it's funny, you keep saying fabricating in your head, right? Scripture says the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. A lot of times we just always want to give that to the enemy. Yeah, the enemy, that Satan and the devil and his minions and everything, they're the enemy. They're the enemy. And the majority of the time in situations like this, we're the enemy, that we're fighting against ourselves, these thoughts that we self-made of what we think others are thinking. Like, I mean, we all deal with it. And
Yeah.
there's times that I'll be sitting there at a restaurant and just because someone glances my direction way too long, I'm like, what are they
what are they
thinking?
staring at? Why are
There's
they
something
looking
wrong
at
with me, right?
Yeah.
So we're the enemy that we fight a lot of the times, right? And we have to battle that with ourselves and remind ourselves that we are a child of God.
Yeah.
We're made in his image. Like you said, there's not another Daniel, and thank God, because I don't think anybody can handle more than me. I can't handle more than me, right? Yeah, we do life together. Me and her family do life. We do life together, and trust me, you don't want more than me. I don't want more than me.
I don't want more than me either.
So,
I think it's also like you have to hold those thoughts captive too, because it's things that you're allowing to happen. Like you're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, it doesn't always mean that like there's not something that's interfering with that, because obviously there is whenever you're like dealing with body dysmorphia and things like that, because that's how I spent all my life. You know what I'm saying? Like I was constantly worried that somebody was saying something or doing something, and now it's different. Like now I'm like, whatever, if they are, like that's their own deal kind of thing.
Right. Well, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But we keep saying body dysmorphia. You were worried about how you looked, and you have tattoos just like me. Was that part of it?
What do you mean? Like
As far as kind of like a new paint job on a car, right? Were you trying to become something?
No,
No? Okay.
that wasn't a thing for me. Now, the tattoos were like I guess like a memorable thing for me
Okay.
with people that had, gone, had passed away, that it was like a way that I felt like I could carry them with me, I guess you could say. So I'm not putting anything on my body like that to cover up who I was in that
Okay.
aspect. No. But like I had never felt, I guess, normal per se. I was born with a club foot, and whenever I was younger, like I was bullied a lot because of it. And so it just kind of gave me like this worry, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
And so I carried that. I carried that my whole life, and that's who I became, was like this person that was worried about all of these things because of that.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it also spread into me needing to alter my body, or, like, so. Yeah.
Right. So we're made in God's image, and listeners, we don't know where the show's going, right? We don't have any plans. This is all spirit led. So that's where the pauses are from, as you know by now. Being made in his image, right? You saying having to, how did you just make your body into what you wanted to because you weren't comfortable with the way you look? Starting from a young age of being born with a club foot, like you said, right?
Mhm.
And that obviously went into adulthood and everything as far as how you looked at yourself. But you'll have women out there that do alter their bodies, right? You know, what would you say to individuals that say there's nothing wrong with it?
To each their own.
Each their own. Wise words.
Until you, well, I encountered something that was literally going to kill me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And not everybody has dealt with that. And sometimes the things that they are dealing with, they don't want to believe that that's what it's from. I mean, that's why I battled with it for 7 years and was like, there's no way. There's also a huge loss in if that is revealed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That there are not many doctors that will do that type of surgery to have them take that out because of that. You know?
Right.
I don't have an answer for that because everyone's on their own journey. And I don't shame anybody that chooses to do it, but I also won't be quiet whenever I,
Right.
explain it, give the chance to tell them what happened to me. Like,
And you say you don't have the answer, but that just so you know, I was probing for the answer you just gave. I just didn't want to tell you that's what I want. Because I want listeners to understand, listen, we're not here to say getting tattoos is bad or altering your body is bad. We're not being religious. We're not being legalistic, right? What she said was to each their own. And until you encounter a situation in your life
Yep.
that is causing you to make that decision, or until God says, hey, you need to stop this because I'm telling you that for you, this is a sin. It's not a sin for everybody. Well, it's a sin, but what I'm saying, it's not a conviction for everybody.
Yep.
God convicted you in the way he did, and he convicts everybody in the way they did, right? There's things that I still do or that I used to do that I didn't stop right away because it wasn't God convicting me that it was wrong, right? It was, the world being legalistic, trying to beat me over the head, saying you shouldn't get tattoos and you shouldn't get this or whatever the case may be, until we have that encounter with God. And I think that's the key, the encounter with God. Because we can read scripture all day long. If we don't have a personal relationship with him and have an encounter with him, scripture isn't going to come alive, right? We have to have that personal relationship. So what what you said was true.
and that's with anything. That's with like, people ask us, I bought a bottle of alcohol for, my father-in-law and you're with us. And is it going to offend you that we gift it to them? No, it's
No,
not like that.
I've
I
had-
have nothing to do with that. That's
Yeah.
fine. Like that's their own thing. For me, I don't do that. And
Right.
it's not because I'm like holier than you. That's not it at all. It's because I've had an encounter that has changed me. Like, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like it's done something. It's the same thing with tattoos, same thing with drugs, same thing with, all these things, same things with the things that I watch and the things that I listen to. And like, I've encountered things that have, once you see it,
You can't unsee
you
it.
can't unsee it. And so it's just like,
Right.
yeah.
Which is funny because that's something that I started saying a while back to Darren, our mutual friend, right? And our Deliverance pastor. Once you can't unsee what we've seen, right? And it's so true. We can't unsee what we've seen and we can't unhear what we've heard.
And you can't change my mind about it either.
No. Good luck trying. Listen, it's one of those things that we have to, it's that encounter with the Lord. And that's where she was, right? That changed the way she looked at things, right? And if you haven't had that encounter, then once you do, you'll understand what we're talking about. So you dealt with body dysmorphia and everything. So let's move on, right? What was that the radical change in your life that just completely because you're on fire for God. It says you're on fire for God in a way that it's just infectious, right? You, Eric, even Ty, right? The way y'all are on fire for God is so infectious. But where did that start? What was what people would call the aha moment?
I mean, like the beginning of it was me getting sober. Like it all began there. Like, I was out one night with my group of girlfriends and it wasn't even like a bad thing. It was, I seen myself from above and I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like the way that it made me feel.
Okay.
And I didn't like how I was acting. And I didn't ever want to be that person ever again. And that's what changed. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I said, I'm done. I'll never drink ever again.
So what happened to you was what a lot of religious people or theologians or believers, let's just say, would say is you were able, God allowed you to see yourself the way he was seeing you then, right?
Yeah.
Not the way he made you or the way he sees
Yeah.
you, but the way you were representing
And
him.
there was nothing that had like really happened before that other than I was suffering with Crohn's disease for quite a few years. And so every time that I would drink, I would be sick for days afterwards. And so there were things that the Lord was trying to get my attention with. Like I said earlier, he was trying to make me choose not to do that, right? And I wasn't. I was just doing it, dealing with the after effects and all the things. And then that happened. And it was like this person that I had never wanted to feel like I've always, not now, but I have always had this urgency or need to like feel accepted or feel loved or like have approval from people. And the Lord showed me what I look like. And I didn't ever want to be that ever again. And that was just like a light bulb. Like it trickled from that, which in all honesty, it had begun in a small amount a few months prior to that I became drug free. And so once again, the Lord had let me see that the choices that I was making were potentially going to get me killed. Like potentially not kill myself, like not overdose, not any of that, but the places that I was putting myself in and the choices that I was making while it was happening was going to end up getting me killed. And so I was able to see like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I didn't. And then I became sober that way. And in all reality, my sobriety led to like my husband's sobriety, right? And just getting engaged in church and getting involved in that. And then it led to Deliverance. We had gone to, I had gone to a few of the women's encounters, and I had been working on, right before the one that I had my sister come with me to, some inner healing. And I had just been trying to work through past traumas and these things that I didn't even know that I had, that I was wired that way, I guess you could say, right? Because at that time, that's what I thought it was. I was wired that way. And so I had already started working on ridding myself or healing myself of these past traumas that I had gone through. But all in all, the Deliverance is what led me to where I am now, because I was set free of all of the illnesses that I carried, right? I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder whenever my son was like 2 or 3. It was nothing new because I had lived my whole teenager, life. I knew that flip of a switch, like I turned into somebody else. A lot of times I was the person that other people would call to like fight somebody. And it was just a fabrication. Like that was not who I was intended to be, but that's who I was, And I was diagnosed with Crohn's disorder or Crohn's disease whenever my son was born. And I had struggled with that my whole entire life, like even as a young child. And so those two things, anxiety, depression, I have had suicide attempts or, thoughts, those types of things. And Deliverance set me free of those. Like literally being delivered took that away from me. And so, just the body dysmorphia, the way that I thought the lying that I did, the relationships that I had carried, into my relationship. If you don't know what a soul tie is,
That's good.
yes,
Explain it to me.
it's something that it's serious, it's real, it's life hindering in every relationship that you go in. Even if you've been married for 40 years, it doesn't matter. Those things are there. And whenever you don't take care of them, you don't realize that you're not what you think that you are. Did
Yeah.
I say that right? Yeah.
In the secular world, people say, you bring your baggage into the new relationship, right? And that's what the secular world is going to tell you. In our faith, in being followers of Christ, we carry soul ties, we carry generational curses, and a lot of times it's because of our disobedience, and a lot of times it's because of stuff that we go through or that we bring along through the bloodline. And I'm definitely one that believes in deliverance, right? And if you don't, just read your Bible. But I'm also a believer that deliverance is not just casting out. There's inner healing involved, and there's therapy and counseling, and
Yes.
there is casting out of demons, right? So there's a lot to it, right? And I say this to ask the next question is, what was deliverance like for you? Because it's different for everybody.
So with the inner healing part sort of coming before actual deliverance, obviously there was inner healing inside of my deliverance too. A specific inner healing was done like with a female, and it was from, childhood trauma that I went through. It was from, like my first relationship, my first heartbreak, those types of things that like you sometimes don't even realize that have altered the other relationships that you've been in. But it was a very like intimate setting where it was private. It was me and her, the Holy Spirit, and we just went down the list of things that I needed to repent for. I needed to, ask forgiveness for. I needed to forgive other people for. And you feel it. You feel the weight being lifted off of you when that happens, because you truly know that those things that you've been carrying like are gone. Like you don't have to carry that anymore.
Right.
And then like the deliverance part was generational things. The suicide that we had that was later cut off of my dad was from like 8 generations. So like, yeah. And also it was more of a group setting. It was with Darren and Vicky. And so a woman and a man. And at first it starts off as kind of like therapy. They want to know like, what was my childhood like? What choices have I made in my life? And, how did they alter who I've become? And when I left, it was so different that when you read books and they say like the colors look different and the stars look different and the sky looks different, it was literally that. The sounds were different. The joy that you hear in the birds, and none of that was there before. It was such like I was in this bubble and I was just being suffocated in it. And then the bubble bursted and it was like
everything
new
was
life. Yeah.
a new life revealed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, definitely, and I know what that's like because I've gone through deliverance myself with Darren and such, and it is completely different. I described it the same way that when I first got sober, right? When I got cleaned off of drugs and alcohol and I was sitting in prison, because when you're in county, a lot of the times you don't get to go outside, as a lot of us know. And it wasn't until I was being transferred from county to prison that I smelled fresh air for the first time. And people were like, how do you smell fresh air? be an addict for 17 years of your life, drinking and drugging and doing everything under the sun, right? And you numb all those senses. And once you become clean, they're like, the Lord cleaned me instantly. Like, people who know me know that I didn't go to a rehab, right? I just didn't. The Lord literally took those desires out of me overnight, right? Because I surrendered, right? He reached out for me and I said, well, if you show me your will, I'll follow you. And he did. And now I do.
Yeah.
And so I was being transferred. And like you said, everything's different. So when I smelt fresh air, it was like these new senses came alive, right? And I could hear things off in the distance,
Right.
like birds chirping that I'm like, what is that noise? Is that a bird? Wow. This flower smells? And people are like, really? Seriously, that intense, where I could smell just the smallest sense, right? In the air. And it was just like a whole new world. You see in the movie just these fireworks start going off. That's what it felt like, right? And that's what it felt like after I went through my deliverance and inner healing as well, because spiritually our senses were dull, right?
Yeah, they were hindered.
They were hindered by a lot of things. And so when we get to heal, and I love what you said, right? You forgave and you accepted forgiveness, right? A lot of people don't understand. They carry this unforgiveness and this bitterness, right, from their first boyfriend or their first girlfriend, and they don't realize how that opens the door spiritually to this ball and chain that you carry for the rest of your life. And you start to see every single person in your future that you go into a relationship with like that first person.
Yeah. And you don't realize it.
And you don't realize it.
I mean, like, whenever we dug and I realized, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, like, you've got to be kidding me that I had let that one breakup literally bleed into my marriage. Like, I'm talking like years and years and years later. And it was that one relationship that altered every single other relationship that I dealt with. And then obviously you date so-and-so and you do whatever, and then you take a piece of that to the next one, and you're like, oh, well, he was the worst. But like, it was from like a young age breakup. Like, it was the first time that I had my heart literally shattered. And I was like, I will never let anybody else make me feel that way.
Chris Binion likes to say STDs, right? Like, people like in the secular world is like sexually transmitted diseases, right? And the spiritual world is sexually transmitted demons, right?
Yeah.
Because you carry that baggage with you with every relationship you go into if you do not heal from it, right?
Yeah.
You break up with somebody, you have this bitterness, and it was a bad breakup, and all of a sudden, it's like this veil is over your eyes. And we'll use Eric, your husband, as an example. You don't see Eric, your husband. You see the boy that broke your heart.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you don't mean to, but there's so much, there's these things that are built up that you carry into the relationship, and you're like almost afraid to give them your all because you still have in the back of your head of what happened to you when you were 12.
And you're 30 something, right?
No, I'm not. But okay.
Well, I didn't want to go too young and say 20 something, but no, it's true. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, you're just talking psychology. We're talking spirituality.
I think a lot of it is, it's not explained enough in the Bible where you're asked to be pure.
Right.
And it's one of those, oh, you're just being godly kind of thing. And it's like, if you knew what you needed to know, then you would know that you probably shouldn't have did any of that. And it's really important because people don't know that.
Right. And boy, is that true. Listen, I am 48 years old. I know I look young. Thank you, listeners, for the ones that say I look young. At 48 years old, I'm given a chance, right? Because I know what I know now. 2 divorces, broken up engagement, broken up relationships, living in sin. I know what I know now. And because I know what I know now, I know that now at 40 years old, I've chosen to be pure. until I get married, if the Lord does give me a wife, right? Which He will. There's a season for it, but I choose that because I know what I know now. Because I don't want the spiritually, the sexually transmitted
Right.
demons
Right.
to keep going.
Yes.
Right.
I don't want to like throw somebody else's information out there, but it's like, I look back now being the person that I am, and I'm like, I wish that I could be who I am now for Eric when I met him. Like, I wish that there were so many things in my past that I chose not to do so I could have been the best wife for him at the very beginning. But that's not what God intended. God intended for me and Eric to grow into what we are now together. And it's been great. But I hear me and my sister joke, and she's like, her husband, Mariah, was his first, like his first love and all thing. And she's like, well, maybe that's why he's not as screw up as we are. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that's true? Like, and in honesty, like, everybody has their own things, but in a lot of times, like, sex was my addiction. Like, it was one of my bad addictions. And I think back and I'm like, Lord, like, to this day, the Lord still shows me things. And then it's like, okay, like, yes, God, you're right. And I don't want it. So take it away from me, kind of thing. And, those are real things. So
what's life like now? Because, we hear bits and pieces of it, right? I get to see what life is like now with y'all, right? And, but for the listeners, can you explain what life is like now being a follower of Christ?
Yeah. So for one, I have never been a Bible reader. I am not a book reader. I have never excelled in any of those things. You would have never caught me even doing a school project that told me that I needed to read a book, because I didn't. I just cheated my way out of it. But from Deliverance to now, I read self-help books. I read the Bible. Like, I study those things. Like, I'm doing Bible studies. I'm constantly trying to educate myself and grow closer to the Lord in those things. And also not even educate myself, but help other people in that. That's the number one thing that is always consistent. Like, I try to do it every time before we work. Like, that we, as a family, that I read in the truck on the way to a job. Bringing the Bible into our homeschooling. Like, that's Ty's favorite thing to do. He loves to do Bible study. He would rather do that and nothing else. But, we're very active in our church. We both, me and Eric, serve on the greeters team. We have our own team that we lead to greet. I am a midweek leader for 9th grade girls that I actually am like over them. I have other girls that help me too. So we have a ministry, Redeemed and Delivered, where we do prayer texts and outreach stuff and clothing donations. And then obviously we partner together with you, Rihanna and Louis Alexander, with them in Rockwall, and we do Rolling Oaks with y'all. And it's just all around different, praying as a family and being involved in church is a huge thing. Like, we're there on Wednesdays. We're there on Sundays. We're doing stuff after, like, it's not anything that we had ever experienced. Like, we lead small groups. We're about to step into something that the Lord literally spoke to me while I was vacuuming one day, of us to start like a recovery group. And we're literally about to partner with our church to be able to bring that as a whole for everybody. This is our life. Like, our friends have changed. Our family's changed. Our boundaries have changed. What we allow in and who we allow in, and what we choose not to associate with or places that we don't go, or if it changes the way that my mood is, then it ain't for me. Like, if it's disrupting how I'm feeling, it's not where we're supposed to be. You know, Eric's the same way. He'll tell me, I don't think so. And I'm like, okay, you know?
So let's talk about that. Eric says, I don't think so, right? And to a lot of secular people, they're like, why are you being so submissive? And they use submissive as a bad word, right? But what I see is a strong, godly woman who is submissive to her husband,
Yep.
which is the way the Bible talks about,
Yep.
right? And it's vice versa, right? Because he's submissive to you, you're submissive to him, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Were y'all like that before?
No.
Yeah. Y'all fought a lot, huh?
Not fighting, but I had this mentality. It was my way or the highway. And Eric was this like nice person that was just go with the flow. Like, whatever, like, you know, we weren't an arguing type. It's just, I was dominant. And what I said went. And if it didn't, then we had a problem. And now, you know, it didn't just come overnight, because I can give you a small story of how, like, even though things changed with, like, choices and me also, like, being obedient to him in that way, there with the job change. So during my deliverance, like, the Lord has shown me so many things of, like, that me and Eric were supposed to be, like, together, like, working together. It's actually a family thing, and it's just in the works, you know, like, it's going to happen when the Lord makes it happen. And we had a conversation, and Eric was like, you know, I'm going to leave my job. And I think it was like 6 or 9 months or something like that. And I was like, okay. And then he started getting really stressed out at work, and he would tell me, you know, I don't know how much longer I can be here. And I'd be like, okay. And then I went up there one day, and I was able to see exactly, like, I felt it. It was so thick in there that everybody was unhappy. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I prayed. And then while I'm driving home, the Lord was just speaking to me about what I had encountered. And so Eric called me. I mean, it had to have been like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks after that. And he's crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And he's like, I'm going to leave. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not leaving. What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I can't. I have to go. I can't stay here anymore. And I was like, okay, well, I need to pray about this. And he's like, okay, well, how long is it going to take? I don't know, but I've got to pray for it. So I need to get off the phone. And so I get off the phone, and I'm just like, great. There were weeks ahead of this that this random, I've never had a time where a scripture just comes to my head, right? It's Isaiah 43:19. And I'm like, Isaiah 43:19. I don't even know what that is. So I go to my Bible and I read it. And I'm like, okay, I put a marker in it. Well, then, like, the next day, we were going to a Bible co-op for Thai school. The table marker on the table, Isaiah 43:19. The sermon, Isaiah 43:19. And I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. The sermon, Sunday at church, Isaiah 43:19. So I get off the phone with Eric, and I'm like, God, you got to tell me. You have to tell me if what we're doing right now. Like, you have shown me. And Isaiah 43:19. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, all right, Lord. So I go to my Bible and I open it, and I read Isaiah 43:18. And I read through, I don't even remember. I have the pictures. I screenshot it in my phone. And it was basically him telling me, I'm making a way in the wilderness for you. Do you trust me? And I was like, yes, God, I trust you. I trusted you from the beginning. I told you, whatever it is that you're doing, I trust you. Well, then I kept reading. And it was basically saying that for me to be a submissive wife to my husband.
Mhm.
And so then I'm bawling because my husband's literally crying to me, telling me, I can't do it anymore. I have to leave. And I was telling him the whole time before this, God's going to provide for us. He's going to make a way. He's going to do it. We ain't got to worry about a job, right? And then I kept reading, and it said about idolizing. I was idolizing my husband's job from the money that he was bringing in. And whenever the time was right for him to make a switch, I would let him know.
Wow.
Convicted. I had to repent. I had to call him and apologize to him. And I was like, the answer is yes. I'm sorry. And I feel like in that aspect of almost in a sense, being broken, right? Because I was this in a lot of relationships. That's what I carried. I carried you're not going to hurt me. I'm the tough guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm the boss here. And whenever somebody would say, which one of y'all wears the pants in y'all's relationship? It was me. It was always me. And now I'm like, we share the pants? That's my husband. Isn't that how it's supposed to be kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you say share the pants, so the listeners know you talk about the responsibility of the decision.
Not literally.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit
Right,
bigger
well-
than me, so I'm not really say pants, but
Well, and I clarify that because, there are people some listeners that are from the secular world that don't understand our lingo, right? It's one of those things that it's a partnership from the very beginning of Genesis. He said, is your partner. She is your helpmate. And that's what you truly found. And he convicted you, reminded you of that.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. And I was literally we're in this together. It's me and you. It's the Lord showed me that this is a business that we're supposed to run together. And my husband was telling me, all right, it's time to go. And I was like, no, it ain't. No.
No.
And then the Lord
no.
was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You don't know what I say to him. You
Right.
don't know what we're doing. You say yes. You said that you
Wow.
trusted me, and now you're being the hypocrite. It's basically what it was.
That could preach, right? That can be a complete sermon right there, not just from a husband and wife standpoint, right? But of being under authority of leadership and whatever the case may be, because that is so true that I have found that in so many ways over the last several months where people don't know. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know what the Lord tells us, right? I don't know what the Lord's telling
Right.
me. I don't know. You don't know what the Lord's telling me. So how can we sit there and, say no to something to somebody that says, well, this is what the Lord's showing me. And we sit there and say, well, I don't think you're ready. I don't think it's time.
And that's what I was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what you were doing. And not to, and I'm not saying this in a mean way to you, but basically you were trying to have spiritual control and being spiritual manipulation
Yeah.
of, okay, I'm good to go. Yeah. Whatever you say, honey. But when he says it's time, because you don't know what God has told him,
Oh, yeah.
you're like, nope.
Yeah.
Mm-mm,
And
I pray about
I got convicted, straight up conviction. And then I called him and I'm crying. And he's like, I can't even imagine what his emotions were. I don't even think I've ever asked him how he felt when I called him back, and then I'm crying because I was like, the Lord says yes. He said yes. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for trying to do any of that. And then I had to tell him these scriptures and this and I'm sorry for not being, your wife and
Right.
trying to control you,
Right. Yeah. And I think, well-intended and good-hearted people do it. They don't even know they do it, right? You didn't know you were doing that, right?
No.
And the Lord
no.
had to convict you.
It was
of it.
I can't even explain it to you because it was I wasn't fearful that he would provide, and I'm still not. I know that the Lord is going to
Right.
provide. It was oh, that's too soon. no, we can't do that now.
It's not on my time.
Yes.
It's not on my time.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. That right there can reach too, because, it's not on my time. And that's why we say these things, right? You haven't healed like I healed. You haven't been through the same journey as I've been through. Until you do, you're not ready, right? The Lord tells me you're not ready. That's all spiritual control and spiritual manipulation that a lot of good-hearted people, well-intending people do without even knowing they
Right.
do it, right? Because, like we said, I don't know what the Lord is doing in your life.
Yeah.
As your brother in Christ, if this is what he's doing, I'm here to support you. If I have a concern, say, okay, hey, Faith, guess what? This is my concern. I trust you're hearing from God, right? Whatever, but you're not ready.
Yeah. Or
Let's pray.
you're
about it.
just a young Christian.
Yeah.
I've been walking with the Lord for a long time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hold up.
I love hearing that as well, right? Well, I've been walking with the Lord for 30 years.
Yeah.
You've only been 8 years. You're
Yeah.
still a baby.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. And so are you.
Yeah.
Right? It's just what it is, right? I think we need to get to a point where we don't try to, it's like what I said yesterday, right? We need to be unbiased in situations. Like my struggles and my healing and my journey and all that, right? My journey that God has brought me through in healing and becoming the man that he has created me to be, all that timing does not transfer over to you, right? It don't, because God has you on your own journey, right? It just because it took me 8 years doesn't mean it won't do the same thing for you in 3 months.
Yeah. Right.
That's just the God we serve, right? That's like putting in a box and saying, just because he healed you of that, he's not going to heal me, right? And I just spoke to myself right there, and I saw that look, because you're like, no, I did, right? And I know he's going to heal me, right? But the timing is up to him, right? Guess we got on a tangent there, because what you said just could really preach, right? It just people need to understand that our journeys in healing and our journeys in recovery are completely different.
Yeah.
And we can't sit there and tell somebody that they're not ready for whatever step God is giving them, telling them to take, just because
of where they're at. Yeah.
because of where they're at
Yeah.
isn't like yours.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not. And I should have known this, because what do I do with people in recovery? I custom tailor a program to each individual person, because it's all different.
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah. So now you run a ministry with your sister, Redeemed and Delivered.
Yep.
Right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so Redeemed and Delivered is exactly what the name
Right.
is. My sister went through deliverance, and so did I. And the Lord has revealed to both of us in many different ways that we are supposed to work side by side in ministry, doing exactly what was done for us. And that's
What you do?
to help deliver people, to have the Holy Spirit and the Lord work through us to set captives free. Not only that, being the hands and feet of Jesus, going out and praying for people for healing, for, whatever it is, helping them, with food or with clothing, or just being there to help mentor them or counsel them, or, that's what we're doing. There are things that the Lord is expanding and using, not just us, but our family too, in that aspect. And it's all his,
Right.
wherever he decides that he wants it to go is what we will do. And so,
Right. And I think that's why we do life so well together, because Redeem and Deliver stand for Christ. And how we see what the ministry is to us is just, we're just the hands and feet of
Yeah.
Jesus, right? I have people all the time say, okay, so what do you focus on? Everything.
everything that the Lord tells us to do.
Like one day it may be feeding the homeless. The next day it may be finding resources for somebody who needs a recovery place, or a single mother who needs food, or whatever the case may be, right? We've developed such a network of resources in all the ministries that we lock arms with, where if I need something and I don't have it, I can reach out to say, hey, can y'all find me this? Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody who
or
needs
when we
this?
have something, we're like, hey, who do y'all know that needs that?
So y'all are the hands and feet of Jesus. Guys, if you know my ministry, they're the same thing. They literally will be there just to love on people who are deemed unlovable. Be there for people that the city and the government says, we can't help you, right? Or we won't help you. Not that they can't, because they can, but they say that we can't. Or, churches that say they won't help people or they can't help people, whatever the case may be. Well, I'm not bashing on churches because I'm not going to talk bad about the bride of Christ.
Or we don't do that here.
Or we don't do that here, right? We're the resources, right? Redeemed and Delivered isn't one of those resources as well, where if you have a need, reach out to them. And then if they have it, they will make sure you can get it. And if they don't, they reach out to the resources. And we'll find somebody that will. And that's what makes it so great that this all started in Rockwall and then Quinlan, and then it's gone to Corsicana with y'all and Redeemed and Delivered. And between all of us, we've gone to Greenville, but there's no place too far or too near that we won't go help, and nobody too far near. Like I just talked to a friend of mine out in Chicago last night. He's going to be in the show in the new year. And he's going to be on the show, but he goes out and he talks to people about recovery and he helps. And he was telling me my business maybe will donate 20%, but the rest of it is coming out of my pocket because I just want to love on people. Right. So if we have resources all the way up into Chicago and Florida, and so it's a large network, right? I know it may not seem like it, but we have decided, and I know y'all have too, because our hearts aligned with this, where y'all are going to be the hands and feet of Jesus no matter what it looks like. Yeah. Right. And I think that's beautiful, right? Because there's a lot of things out there that are needed and people want to pick and choose. And you know what? The Bible doesn't say pick only to deliver and pick only to heal and pick only to do that. It says if you believe, you will be, right? You will do these things. You will all those, right? So that's what we're here to do. We don't choose.
Like I have a t-shirt that says doing what Jesus did.
Oh, do you?
And that's literally like what me and my sister stand by is like, we're going to do what Jesus did. Like that's what we're called to do. We're all called to do that. Now, if you walk into that, that's like your choice, Yeah.
It's funny you say that, right? Because I said this yesterday and I said it again to our pastor when we were talking about my new chapter in this coming year and what God is moving me into. They're asked, well, are you going to go through with it? I was like, no, it's going to happen. Whether it's with me or not is up to me because God has already said this is what he's wanting, right? I have to be obedient and walk through that, right? And walk in that. And you're right. Do what Jesus did, right? Or however you said it.
It says doing what Jesus
did, right?
And it's like praying, like for people, healing people. Healing as in like praying for healing for them, and then like healing as in deliverance, like, and being there for widows, feeding helping the needy, like doing what Jesus did.
Yeah, and it's not an easy calling, right? It's not. I am single, and I can tell you that it's not just a lonely road, but it's a heavy mantle to carry as a single man, right? How is that as a family?
I say, if anything, it opens our eyes more and more every time it happens. It allows us to, especially with Ty, to like realize that like you do have a purpose and you do have a calling and that there are people that need you, and for you to walk in that obedience, it just it expands my heart every single time. Like not only watching my family do that, but knowing the peace that I have in doing it, you feel like you're serving the purpose. Like, I mean, I know that you know what that means.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. And I know the mantle is easier to carry, I guess, would you say, as a family?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so because you yourself are doing a lot of things solo, you
Right.
know? And had we not been in the situation that we are now with our job, I would be doing exactly what you're doing. But when God called me and my sister into this ministry, it was at the exact time that he told me that Eric was not where he was supposed to be. And so he showed me that we were supposed to do it together.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't just a two-person thing. Like, it was for everybody. And yeah. But I also have to say that a lot of times, like, we have to learn that we don't have to do it all ourselves, right?
Right.
And that it's not all ours to, like,
Carry.
manage. Right.
Right.
And yes. And so that's why, like, we have the community that we have, and we're in that with other people. And yeah.
Yeah, and I will tell you that is um the most important thing out of this whole journey, right? Because I used to say for years I was doing it solo in Hunt County, right? And Leah would say she was doing it solo. So we were on different sides of the city doing it solo.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other back then. Doing ministry on our own for years and years, and we asked for people like ours within a team, and now he's not giving us a team, and he's given us a family.
Mhm.
He's given us a community.
Right.
And you're right. The mantle is hard to carry alone because when I go home, I'm alone. This stuff alone with the Lord, right? And we clarify that before somebody puts it on the chat. You got God. I know I got God, right? But it's different when you come home and you have Eric and y'all can talk about that stuff, right? But I don't do it alone in a sense because I have a community. So when there's something that I have to deal with, right, that it's too heavy for me to deal with, I reach out to my community.
Right.
And that is also the way God intended it, right?
Right. I think a lot of times, like, there has to be like a shut off with that, because I would carry all of that back with me, and then I would feel it. And so I would have to pray before I leave, Lord, this is yours. It's not mine. You have to take it from here. It ain't going with me.
Right.
It's yours, and it stays right here.
Yeah. So I think that's important for listeners to understand too, is like, don't do it alone, right? Jesus didn't do it alone.
Right.
He had his 12 disciples. He had his circle, right? And within that 12, he had his close 3, and within that 3, he had his closest 1, right? And we need to do life like that as well, you know? But yeah, so now y'all got Redeemed and Delivered. You mentioned something about you and Eric having your own business.
Yes.
Let's talk about that real quick so listeners know.
So my husband was in the car industry for almost 20 years. And we now run a junk removal and landscaping business. It's called EFE, Junk Removal and Landscaping. That business is from, like, storage cleanouts. If someone has acreage and they just need wood piles taken away, we've done house cleanouts that, for people that have hoarded, or someone that has passed away and they need to clean the house out. We've done garage clean out. But the thing is that when the Lord showed us, what we were walking in, it was a staple in our ministry, because the donations that we are able to give out sometimes are from these jobs, like a microwave, like, like a bed frame, like a mattress. These are from jobs that we've did. Right now, we don't have the full capability of, like, storing, like, couches and stuff, but in the future, the Lord's going to provide those things for us to be able to say, a single mom just moved into an apartment. She needs this, this, and this. And I say, cool. We got it for them because that's what we're doing. It was a complete God thing. It literally was like puzzle pieces going together of a vision that the Lord was showing, not just one, like hey, so how about this? And I'm like, my gosh, yes, because the Lord's already told me, he's already been telling me that. So
the business is more of a ministry.
Yeah.
In a sense that you get to minister to people, right?
Yeah, we leave our logo is literally an E, an F that's a cross, and an E, and we hand out little Jesuses. Like, the time that we get to just talk to the people that we're working with, we'll have people ask us, so what church did y'all go to? And I'm like, Pine? And they're just like, we see it on you. I can see it on you. And then it starts a whole, conversation with them. Or I'll say, like, the music that I'm playing over there. And then it just, like, we did a job for somebody that he was disabled in some way, and I can't remember what it was, but his wife kept coming out and checking on him and trying to get him to, go in. And I'm like, he's fine, but he wasn't really saying much. And then what? Oh, he had dementia.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but the conversation, I don't even know how it happened, but I was playing like Ben Fuller on my phone while we were working, and then he was like humming a Christian song. And then this whole conversation started, and he was ministering to me, and I was ministering to him, and I was just like, this man that has dementia that does the same thing every day. And then I got to see Jesus working in that very moment.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. I can't think of another story off the top of my head, but I mean, for instance, now I think of one. A lady that we had to clean out her daughter's house because her daughter is now serving some time for some choices that she made. And just being able to pray for her, and the fact that she's raising her grandkids now, and you could, when you know what you know and you can't unsee it kind of thing, you walk into an environment like that and it's just like
heavy.
You can smell it, you can see it, you can do all things, and you know that the Lord's put you in that place. And so it's beautiful. Honestly, some days I will cry and I'll be like, it's not bad. And he's like, okay. So this is from a client.
The same way.
This is the lady that I was talking about.
Okay.
It says, I saw my little Jesus that your wife gave me when I was in the car and was reminded of his presence in our life every day. What a comfort. Please share with Faith. Thank you for that.
And that's beautiful. Right. That right there, those little things, a lot of people are like, so what? It's not a so what. That right there never gets old. How many times you get a message like that, right? Just the little things that we do. We think that ministry is just this big, loud, glorious thing, and it's not. It's not about just being on the street corner and preaching Jesus or praying for people. It's the little things. It's the crossing and smiling and saying, God bless you, right? And handing them a little Jesus or something that they turn around and catch you before you leave, and they say stuff like that, right?
You go about your daily. Like, I send out messages to people, and I just give them the Lord's word. Sometimes it's sometimes it's from the Bible app. And then I have people that ask me to like counsel them or mentor them. And I'm like, what did I do that made them feel like I was capable of doing that? Do you know what I'm saying? Then
Do you know the answer to that?
The Lord, like it's not me.
No, the answer is that you said yes. God said, this is what I want to give you. And you said yes, right? And he's working through you in those things. He's working through you and helping counsel them because you're doing it from a foundation of scripture. And I'm pretty sure I can guesstimate that when you do it, you bring real life examples and real life situations that you've gone through,
Yep.
connected with word. And it's just one of those things that it's more powerful to people. They get to feel, right? I heard somebody say, I said this yesterday, I heard somebody say that there's 5 gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Oh, well, that's only 4. Where's the 5th one? And you're the 5th one. You're the 5th one.
That's good. That is so good.
They will read no other gospel but what Jesus did in your life.
That's amazing. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before.
So so you know, a lot of times we're that 5th gospel, right? They'll never hear about Jesus. They'll never see Jesus. And here's the beautiful thing, because I've been told this: I see Jesus in you.
Yeah.
And I'm
Like,
sure
it's
you've heard
all
it too.
over you. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's like
like,
all over you, right?
what do you mean?
They'll never see Jesus if it wasn't for your yes.
Yeah.
Of you saying, yes, God, I give up the drugs. I give up the alcohol. I give
Right.
up the body imaging. I give up all this. Yes, Lord, I give up trying to be in control of 99 of that 1%. Even though I give you the 99. Oh, yes, Lord. I give that up to you. You know, if you want me to submit, okay, fine. You know, you're saying yes to everything He's given you, right? And in turn, they're not seeing you because you're saying yes to Him being the radiant light that comes out and that they see.
Yeah.
Right. And it is beautiful, right? I love getting messages like that, and I'm sure y'all do as well, right? Where people are just like, thank you. Thank you. You know, I got a message the other day from somebody I knew from back in the day, back in the drug dealing and drug usage day, right? Who's still on my Facebook somehow. And she's like, I've been watching you this whole time, and the transformation has been great. She goes, I just want you to know you've inspired me to look
Yeah.
more into God.
Isn't that so beautiful?
And
Yeah.
that brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Because you could have given me $1 million or given me that. And as much as I want to say I'd take the $1 million, I would rather have that, because that fulfills me. That tells me that I'm doing what's right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of times, though, it's hard. I mean, I've had this conversation with you about, like, you don't always see that with everybody. And you are, like, pouring into and, like, trying to be this, like, showing them the transformation and trying to be this person that's dragging them sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're, like, beating them over the head with
Yeah.
a stick about, haven't you seen what He's did for me, kind of thing. And then it's like,
Because what?
and those are the times that you feel like the enemy wants you to feel like depleted. Like,
Yeah.
he wants you to feel like what you're doing doesn't matter. And this needs to be a reminder to everybody that you plant the seed, you water the seed,
Mhm.
and then you get to see.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen that way with everybody.
You know, I feel we've always been, in our past, some ways we're trained in the physical and what we do in the spiritual, right? Planting the seeds. I plant a lot of spiritual seeds.
Yeah.
I do a lot of spiritual seed planting. And I'm like, well, why? But I remember growing up,
Mm,
right, in Mexico, right, when I would go for the summer, I would go for the summer there and also go to school there in the summer. So I never was out of school. But when I was there with a plow, I'm not talking about tractors, I'm talking about horses and plows. I was the kid up front that they were teaching me how to plant seed
wow.
as a kid. I would plant seeds or something. And I never thought about that until now. Like, I was being trained as youth in the physical for what I'm doing now in the spiritual as an adult.
Wow.
Right. And in the spiritual, I'm still the youth. Right. But we do plant seeds, and that's more important than anything.
But I remember, like, being, like, drunk, right?
Yeah.
And, like, praying over people, like, praying that the Lord would really, and then He did, is the crazy thing. But now I look back and I'm like, I was doing it the whole time, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not in the right headspace. It wasn't where the Lord intended for me to be, but I got to see those miracles happening even there, even in those moments.
Well, awesome. Awesome. Faith, thank you so much for being our guest. And I'm sure you touched somebody out there. We planted a seed somewhere, right? With what you had to say. So thank you so much, listeners. This coming Friday, I believe we have Pastor Chris Negron from Encounter Church that's going to be on the show. We tried to have him last month and scheduling didn't correlate. So we have him scheduled for this coming Friday. It's going to be an amazing Friday. This is the last show of the year. So if you'll hear us from us next year, right? Which makes it seem like a long way away, but it's only a few days. Does sound weird, right? This is the last show of the year, guys. We love y'all. We thank you for all the support and all the love that y'all give us, me, just the ministry, and this podcast. There are some exciting things coming this coming year, which I will reveal within the month of January. I don't know what language I was speaking there, but in the month of January, we will reveal them. Just be prepared. It's going to be exciting, and we're going to have a lot of exciting guests. I have a lot of exciting guests scheduled for the first 2 months of the new year already. So thank y'all. Faith, thank you.
Thank you.
For being a part of my life and your family being
Same.
a part of my life. We'll see you next year. Good night.
Bye, y'all.
When you speak, time begins. When you speak, darkness ends. When you speak, you calm the noise. There is power in your voice, and every single word that you say of me makes the old brand new. Is your holy truth for every sin of man. You were the